This next video will cover actually putting together your map. As you can see here, this is just the data view, so you won't be able to put your map together in this window. Instead, you will have to go to Project, New Print Layout, and name it something appropriate. I have named mine Nyampande Health Clinic Accessibility because that is what we will be showing on this map. After that, you can press OK, and it should open up your new map layout document. This video will also show how to add certain cartographic features such as a title, a north arrow, and a scale bar, but it will not cover how to add a legend, as that is slightly more complicated and there are more steps. So there will be a separate video showing you how to add in a legend and how to style a legend. The first step you need to do is set the page size. I think the default is a normal letter size paper, but in our case, the project has requested an A0 size. So what you can do is right click, go to page properties, and you can set the page size to A0, which is a large poster. And then you can click this zoom full button and you will see the full page. Here you can also change the orientation of the page to either landscape or portrait, landscape being horizontal and portrait being vertical. But if we go back to our other window, you can kind of tell that our data is oriented in a way that would be more suited for a landscape pane. So we are going to leave it as is. After that, we will need to add our first item, and in our case, we'll be adding the map. So you go to Add Item, Add Map, and you will get this little cross, which will allow you to draw in the area that you would like to add your map. I typically like to go one hash mark in from 0 on both the top left and the top right, and then drag down to the same thing in the bottom right hand corner. And once you release, you will be able to see your map. This should mirror the view you had in your other map pane, the data pane. So that's over here. But you can tell that it is much smaller than you would like it to be. The data does not essentially fill the screen, and we needed to do that in order to have a map that is visible and practical for its use. What you'll need to do to fix this is to adjust the scale. The lower the scale is, the more zoomed in your map will be. What you can do is you can go back to the QGIS document and manually zoom in and out, and then go back to your print layout and click this button, which sets the map extent to the main canvas, which is the data view. But in our case, what I'm going to do is manually change the scale. I'm going to lower it and try to get it working as best as possible to fit the data. So let's lower it and let's see where this goes. As you can see, it still needs to be adjusted. So I'm going to continue to adjust it until I can get something that fills the screen a little bit better. If it doesn't automatically adjust, you can click this button here and it should refresh the map window and give you a little bit better representation. I still don't think it's enough. I'm going to do one more, change down to a 4 and see how that looks. So it's starting to look a little bit better, but as you can see, we're missing some of the villages. They're off to the left over here. So what you can do is click on this button. You can interactively edit the map extent. So we're going to click on that and then drag, and this will allow us to set the map extent to something that's better for our data. So as you can see here, it keeps loading. And I think we have found a scale that best fits our data set here. You can see all the villages are visible, including the ones far off here to the left and in the top right, and all the clinics in the area are visible as well. You will notice that the dots are very small as well as the labels, but this is important because this is going to be a large poster size as we set in the beginning to A0. So the small text and small dots will be visible once this map is printed out for its eventual use. The next step is to add in some important cartographing features that go along with any map that you create. First, and the most simple, is to add in the north arrow, just so the person reading the map can get oriented and that so they can see which way is north. So we'll go to add item, add north arrow, and it's typically good to add it in one of the top corners. I think we're going to add it in the top right over here. And there you can see, you can drag it. I like to kind of fixate it in the corner, but not exactly in the corner. Next, I will show you how to add a scale bar in. This, similar to the north arrow, gives the person reading the map a little reference to what they're viewing and the scale in which they're viewing it. To do that, you go add item, add scale bar. Similar to the adding a map, you will get these little crosshairs. What you can do is drag in the area that you would like the scale bar to be located in. So in our case, I will drag it over here, and you can see it's really small at the moment. That is because it is referenced for a large poster size, which is our A0 size, but we'll increase it to increase the visibility. You can change the style of the scale bar. You can see it's single box right now. Now it's double box, or you can add ticks. I like to do the single box. I think it's very clean and it's very visible, especially with a background that changes like our base map. You can also change the segments on it, so you can add an additional segment in case you want to increase the length on the right side or on the left side. In our case, I think I will add 2 segments on the right, so you get 2 small segments and then 2 large segments. You can then go down to the height and increase the height so it's a little bit more visible to the user. And I will bring it back up a little bit. And then the next important part is increasing the font size so that the users can read the numbers associated with the scale. A font that I typically use, you can change to right here, is Gill Sans MT. It's a widely used font by USAID and other development agencies. And so I like to be consistent, and that is what we used in the labels as well. So that is what I'm going to use here. You can then bump up the size so it becomes a lot more visible. And you can see here we have our finished scale bar. You have 5 kilometers on the left, 5 kilometers on the right, and then 10 kilometers. So it gives the user or the person reading the map a little reference to the scale in which they're viewing. Another very important part is adding a title to your map so that someone who is looking at it without any prior knowledge can understand what they're looking at. To start adding a title, you go to Add Item, Add Label, because that's just a text box, and drag again where you would like to populate that text box. I'm going to give my map the title of Nyampande Chiefdom, and I'm also going to add a little subset of text under that to give a little description about what we are showing in this map. Again, you can change the font size here by bringing it up to something larger that's visible. But first, like before, we would like to change the font to the font we are using consistently throughout the map, which is Gill Sans MT. And then we'll bump the size up substantially. Let's try something like 36. That also seems to be a little small. We'll go up to 72. And that's pretty visible. So I think that's what we're going to stick with for now. You can also italicize or bold it. I'm going to bold it because I think we're going to add something below it as well. To add something below it, I'm simply going to go to Add Item, Add Label, draw in another box here, and add in the appropriate text to tell specifically what we're showing in this map. I made this Village Access to Health Clinics so that the person reading the map can understand what they're looking at first glance. I've also made it a little bit smaller size as it's not as important as Nyampande Chiefdom, and as well I made it italicized. The final step is to add in a legend. The same thing as before, you go to add item, add legend, draw in where you would like the legend to be. I typically like the legend to be in one of the bottom corners as it's an easy place to view. I also like to make sure I put it not over any of our data points, and as you can see here, it is not covering anything. That is where I'm going to stop this video, and we will cover how to style your legend and manipulate it in the way that works best for your map in the next video.